Good morning, students. How are you?
Morning, doctor. Everything good? Thank you.
Very nice. How did your exam go? Are you happy with your exam? Not so bad, with some doubts. Okay, sure. Of course, it's, yeah, I understand. Okay. I gave another opportunity to write the exam. Did you see that? Okay, very nice. Very good. Okay. Okay, you're welcome. So today let's start our new session. Today's session 5, and from today we'll start learning about the inferential statistics. Um, so we go really slow. I see that there are some students who are not really getting the whole point, so I will try to go a little slow. And during the class, if you have any doubts, you can ask me again. Also, um, you have to understand what we are going to learn uh, is is new for a lot of you, right? So don't worry if you don't understand. You have to do a lot of practice. I'm sure you will be very comfortable in few practices. And today's topic is something very simple. It's very simple, and I'm sure most of you have already done that. But all we are going to do is we're going to put some mathematical perspective and try to see how it looks. So most of the things what we are going to do now, you already have seen those things in the real life. So let us see. And today's topic is very simple, yet we need to understand, right? Okay. Let's see what is today's topic. So today we want to see what is point estimation, and then we see the theorem called central limit theorem. Some mathematicians say central limit theorem is the most interesting or most important theorem of the whole mathematics. That's what they believe. I'm not sure about that, but I can say it is very important for statistics. We don't have to prove the theorem. We will just try to understand it. But this result of central limit theorem will help us in a lot of other things. I mean, in the future classes. So central limit theorem is something very interesting to know, and you will be feeling very comfortable. It's not something, it's not difficult. It's very easy, and also it's very useful. So you have to understand the concept. What is central limit theorem? And finally, if we have time, we'll go through the normal distribution. I told you we need to focus more into the normal distribution, but it is only if we have time we will see, or else we will see in the next class, right? Okay, so today we'll see first the point estimation. The point estimation is something which I was telling you that you already know it, but we'll put the mathematical and statistical perspective. And then we'll see the central limit theorem. And then we see the normal distribution. Okay. So before we start, we have to understand these two concepts. What is population? What is a sample? Right? Okay. Can anyone tell me what is population and what is a sample? Anyone want to explain what is population or what is a sample? I heard something, I'm not sure. Okay, population is group of study. Population is a group of study. Yeah, you can say in a manner, yeah. And what is sample? Population is well everyone, and sample is certain group of the population. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, I'm not sure how you am pronouncing the name correct. Odette, Odette Carolina is very correct. The population is the whole group, the whole uh, the whole we can say the whole sample space, or we can say the whole, not sample space, I mean the whole the population. For example, if you are let us say, if I say in your classroom, the whole population goes each and every member of the classroom. And if I say, if I take a sample, for example, if I say now, if I ask a poll, if I conduct a poll saying, did you like the exam or not? If I conduct now, there are only 8 people present now. So the result I'm going to get is a sample, not the whole population. So now what I have now, right now, are 8 members of your class. So I have a 8 members sample. So I have one sample of 8 members. So if I conduct a poll, if I ask, did you like the exam? And all of you say you liked it, it doesn't mean that the whole class liked it, right? But yet I know that 8 people or the sample liked the exam. So, so the population, if I say your classroom, it means each and every member of your classroom. When I say sample, I'm just selecting some group. A group may be like the people who are attending a class right now, or if I can select group in any other manner. But most of the times what we do, or almost all of the time what we do is we take random samples. So what we have to understand is population is the whole group. Sample is selected people from the group. Selection method should be random. So let us see, how do we select in random? There are 3 methods mostly used. Random sampling by the lottery method. We know how is the lottery method works. We have all the people and we randomly select some numbers. And then table of random numbers. So from here I'll start sharing my computer. I want to show you. So there are some random number tables. For example, here it is. One random number table, right? So we use this. Okay. The first question, why do we need a random number table? Why can't we just ask one kid to give some random numbers and we use that, right? So the reason is, when we use a human or any other sources for generating random numbers, they are mostly biased. For example, if I ask a person to tell any random number, he will tell the random numbers less than 1,000 most of the times. But if, for example, if I say select a number between 1 and million, most of the time you will end up with a number very similar at the center of those. It's because of human bias of using the center value for selecting when you ask for any random numbers. If I ask you to tell any random number between 1 and 10, it is very unlikely that you will select 1 or 10. Most of the times you select 5, 4, 9, 6, something like that, right? So we don't go with humans nor by generating some kind of algorithms, because if you have algorithm means you are using some kind of a method and it is biased. You are using some mathematical formula. So they use some other techniques to generate random numbers. I'm not sure what techniques they use, but they are not direct random numbers. Even there are some random numbers they are generating from seeing the stars, something related to the stars. And there are some random numbers which are generated through some kind of electron movement or something. I'm not sure about the techniques, but generating random numbers itself is a complex process. They have to make sure there is no algorithm into it. So mostly what we have is a random table and we get numbers from that. And also some people use software. Even the softwares, they generate random numbers using the random tables. Because if a software wants to generate a random number, it can't generate by itself, because if it generates by itself, it's going to be another algorithm. You can't use algorithm. So what they have is internally they have a random number tables. So they, when you ask, tell me a random number, they will give the first random number. So if you don't want the first random number, what you have to do is you have to tell a seed. We use, when you generate random numbers on computers, we use the word seed. What does seed means? Seed means at what point you want to start the table. For example, if you want to generate random numbers and every time you are generating from the beginning of the random number table, so you get the same numbers all the times, right? So if you don't want that, you want to generate random numbers and also make sure that you're not generating the same place. So what you do, you change the seed. So what is a seed in generating random numbers? Is the starting point of the random table, random number table. So let us see, for example, generating random number with seed. So if you see here, generate random number with seed, Python, Java, C#, SAS, R. You see all the languages, they need a seed. Okay, Excel, I think it takes seed also in a random fashion. When I generate random numbers, when I use any of these softwares, what I do is I take seed as the millisecond of the time. Because every time I run a program, I'm sure the millisecond of that instant is different from the another millisecond. So in that way, I make sure the millisecond is between 0 to 100, sorry, 0 to 1000. That count gives 1000 seeds, and in a kind of random fashion, the moment I run, the millisecond is unknown to me, so I don't know what's going to be. So every time I get a new seed, right? So that's my technique I use in generating random numbers using software. Okay, so let us say you have a random number table and you selected a seed and you want to start using it. So how do we use? For example, if we have these random numbers like this, let us say we have some population. Here we have population. Okay, what is this population? These are the example I use, the Squid Games. Okay. This Squid Game ratings given by how many people? By 1,184. So there are 1,184 people give the Squid Game rating. So let me say, we know that more than a million people have seen the Squid Games, but only 1,184 people given the ratings. So this itself is a sample. But for our convenience, let us say this is the whole population, right? So let us say this is the whole population. Let's try to start analysis. So let's say this is a whole population. And this is the rating given by them. This is the rating given by the population. I want to select some, let us say randomly, I want to select 10 members among this. From here to here, I want to select random 10 people, right? How do we do using a table? Let's say there are 1,000 people. So 1,000 is from 0 to 1,000. So I take only first 3 numbers of this random number table. So the first is 365. So I say 365. So I go to 365. Let me create a new sheet. I'll select here the ones I'm using from the random number table. The first one is 365. The 365. This is 365. The rating is 7. This is 7. And then I go after 365. The number is 183. I go for 183. 183. The rating is 9. We'll take 10 individual elements or 10 samples. Okay, I will explain what is sample in more in a way, because I'm going to take 10. I'm going to select 10 out of all these 1,000 members, right? Okay, the second one I have done. Let me go for the third one. The third one is 677. Let me copy this. We have here. So let me cross which I have used it. So I'm going to use 677 until here. So 677. We go to 677. So we go 677. Where is 677? The rating is 9. And now I go to the next number. It is 789. 789. So let me go to 789. 789, which is also 9 again. Now let me go to the next sample, which is 116. 116. The rating is 8. The next sample is 5. 055. 55. 55 is 4. Let's go to the seventh sample. 4, 2, 2. 422. The rating is 9 again. Next, 970. 970. The rating is 7, 9. The next sample, the ninth sample is 837. 837. Is 10. The last sample we're going to take is 752. 752. 752. It is again 10. So this is the sample. We call the whole set. We have 10 individual elements, but the whole thing we call as a sample. This is sample 1. So sample 1 doesn't mean 7. Sample 1 for us is the whole collection. Of this whole collection, we call it one sample. So we have a sample of 10 elements, right? So we have this 10. Okay. So we are taking a sample of 10 elements. So now if I want to know anything, I can, if I want to do some analysis, I will do on this sample. So why do we do that? For example, if you are having a company and you want to measure your product's quality, but the only way you can measure is by destroying that component. For like, so let us say you are making some some electronics, and you want to say that your electronics is going to withstand up to 500 volts. It is designed for 100 volts, but say it's going to work until 500 volts. That's what your company claims. So what you can do is you select randomly 10 of those cards, your electronic devices, and you can apply 500 volts to all these 10 and see if it is really true or not. So when you apply 500, it may withstand, but it may internally damage, right? So it's kind of like you can't sell the product to the customer. So you are going to sacrifice 10 of your electronic equipment for sampling purpose. It's called destructive testing. So if it is destructive testing, so what you have to do is you randomly select some samples. So how do you do that? Using the random tables, right? Okay. So this is one technique. And if you notice, I took 1000 because that's the number which made me easy, because we are going from 0 to 1000. So I selected until here. But if you see, we have 100 more data. I didn't select all the remaining this part. So if I want to select all this, how can I do? The technique I can use is the same random table. Instead of 3, I can take 4, 2, 3, 4, and whenever it is more than my number, for example, it is the maximum number I have is 1185. Whenever it is more than 1185, I will ignore it. For example, this one I ignore. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is starts with 8. I have to ignore, and this one also I have to ignore. But here 1160 is available, right? So this sample 1160 I can take into account. 1160, I will select where is 1160. For example, 1160 is here. I will select it. In this way, you can do when you have when you want to consider the whole population, or else you can make some other thing. For example, you want to make if you say it's very rarely coming, so what you can do is you can take half of it. So if you see 3651, you make half of it and ignore the part of decimal. So what is the number? Let us see. 36518 divided by 2. 36518, sorry, 3651, we take until this, divided by 2. It is 1825. Is it available in this until now? No. So we have to ignore this value. But let us say instead of dividing by 2, we can divide by 3 or divided by 4 for your convenience, so that you have to make sure that it's the entire population is covered. So that's one way. But we don't want to do all this because we have a software. So we use the software technique. So how do we use it? So we have a Excel here. So the first sample is selected by the table, right? So let us select another sample through Excel. Sample 2. So what am I going to do here is I'm going to generate random numbers. Random between the top is 1. The bottom one is, we know what is the, starts from 1 until 1185. So 11, oh, sorry, the bottom is 1 and the top is 1185. Or we can say lower limit and upper limit of our, so the Excel is generating some random numbers. In Excel, every time we refresh a cell, all the random numbers are generated again with some new seed, I guess. Okay, so these are the random numbers generated by Excel. So these are the random numbers which represents the location, but we have to get those values, right? For the ratings. So how do we do that? So there is a formula. Let me remember if I'm correct. Index. I think it's index. In index, we have to say select the array. The array is this one. From here, you want to select the row number. The row number is this one, right? Let me see. So in this manner, I have done a sampling. This is a random sampling. The ratings are 10, 10, 7, 9, 8, 4, 8, 8, 10, 7. This is a random method by the random tables, and this one is through our Excel. In Excel, we don't have to give any what do you call that? We don't have to give any seed, but in general, we need to put seed in other softwares when you generate random numbers. So you have to make sure your seed is different if you don't want sample the same manner, right? Okay. So let us see the example. So we saw this example, but let us go for another example and see. Let us take various samples. So let us see data sets. Vaccination data of Turkey. Let us see if it is any useful for us. Oh, it's 136 MB. It's very big. Let's see if it is useful. Okay, it's 3 million rows are there. SQL. No, it's very big. We are not going to take it. Let us see what information we have from the Olympics. Let us see athletes. Okay. We have a list of all the athletes participated in the Olympics, right? That's what I believe. Okay. So let us say this is the list of all the athletes that participated in the Olympics of Japan Olympics year 2021, this year's Olympics. Okay. So my objective is to randomly select 10 members among them, and I want to select it various times, like not just one sample. I'm going to do various samples, many samples, and let us see what happens. So first I'll say sample 1. Sample 1. I want to select 10 members. How do I do? First I generate random numbers between 1 to the total number of population. What is the total population here? It starts from 2 until 11086. 11086. Starts from 2 and it is until 11086. Is 11,086. Let me see if it is correct. 11,086. Okay. So I want a sample of 10 members. So these are the rows. I selected them. Then I'm gonna select index. Okay, what do I want to select? I want to know their name, their country, or their expertise. Maybe I want all three of them, right? So let's start with this one, then comma, then let us say so let me see what happens. Okay, got one person, and this is his name. So what is the other one? We want to know is his country, or the person's country. The person's country is Pakistan. And then we see his expertise or the game he is playing. Swimming. Okay. So I copy these three until here. So the 10 randomly selected people, we have this information. So what is the information? Every time it is changing, because in Excel the names keep changing, right? So every time the row refreshes, any of the cell is refreshing, the whole page is refreshing, and they're generating new random numbers. We can stop doing that. There is one technique, like in Excel, we can stop everything, we can freeze it, and we can say, okay, calculate now, and it will calculate. So I'm not sure how to do that, but it is possible. So you won't get always refreshed. So what is the disadvantage of this is, so every time it refreshes, it makes your computer go slow. For example, for 10 samples, it's not a big deal, but if you are using a big sample with random numbers and you are performing a lot of calculations, every time you change one cell, it's going to do the whole calculation for the whole page and it will become very slow. So to avoid that, you can use that technique. Anyway, for us, not a problem. So let's keep it this way. Okay. So in this, we selected one person from United States, Spain, Japan, Germany, two persons from Japan now, Malaysia, Uzbekistan, Dominican Republic, Italy, Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. So this is sample one. So how do we do sample two? I just copy and paste. This is sample two. If I want another sample, I'll just copy paste. I'll get sample three. If I want another sample, I just copy paste. I got sample four. I can take how many samples I want, right? For example, I have four samples. Sample one, sample two, sample three, sample four. Okay. Does anyone has any doubts until here? Okay. If you don't have doubts, let's continue. Okay, we got some questions. Let us see. No doubts. Okay, very nice. Let's go to the next. Point estimation. So point estimation, what does point estimation means? So when you have some samples, when I say samples, remember here we have four samples. When you have samples or when you have a sample, so what you can do is you can do some analysis with the sample. So for example, in this, I can say, I can bring some information. I can say, what information can I say? Athletics is majority of the players are into athletics. I can say that because I can see 4 are doing athletics and remaining all are doing some other kind of games. So from this, I can say 40% of the population is into athletics. That's what I can understand from this. That's a point estimate. Point estimate is I'm trying to get some information from the sample. So this is a sample. The information I'm getting is 40% of the population are athletics. If you go to sample 2, here there are only 20%. So in this sample, I can say 20% of the athletics, 20% of the population are into athletics. If I go to another population, another sample, I can say from this sample, I can say 20% are athletes. If I go to another sample, here I can say 30% are athletes. So this is the information I'm going to give you. But we all know the correct percentage of athletes in the Olympic Games of 2021 is not 30, not 20, not 40. Why how I know, because not this, not this, not this, because when you give 3 different numbers, you are sure that it's not the correct one. So my question is, how do we understand what is the correct value? We can never know. The correct answer is we will never know the population. So if I say the correct percentage of athletes are, if I say like 25%, it will be a lie. It's because no one knows it. You can say it is possible they are 40% using the first sample. From second sample, you can say you can only estimate it like 20%. So what we are going to do in the point estimation is we give a number based on the sample we have. but we are not sure if it is the case because it's like an estimate. It's not the truth. That's why we say point estimation, right? So we have a sample, we give estimate. That's what we do all the time. It happens before the elections. So if there are elections in the country, what we do, we conduct a poll for a samples, for some sample randomly selected members, and we give this the rating, like, okay, this party is going to have majority or the other party is having the majority. We know that's not the case in the real world, because in the real world what we have is a census. The census means it's not an estimate, it is the whole population is considered and they are taking their interests. For example, in the dentist, I mean in the what do you call this, the elections, we can't just take samples and we declare the president of Mexico. What we have to do is we have to go to each and every individual, and we have to know what is his decision, and the decision of that person is taken into account, and then we decide who is the president of Mexico. So that's how it should be happen for all the countries. I'm sure that's how it happens. No one does statistical inference, and no one declares the president. They go and understand each and every person's view. We call it census. We don't call estimation. The estimation is when you take a sample and we estimate it and we project it. It happens in the newsrooms. So if you have a news channel, we want to show, okay, this candidate is going to win, the other candidate is going to win. What they do is they try, in the actual way, what they have to do is they have to go randomly select some population, and they have to know their view and record it and project it, right? So that's point estimation. So we know point estimation. In the point estimation, what we can do? We can do these operations. For example, we can understand mean, variance, standard deviation, or population portion. So I'll explain what is population portion, but we already know what is mean, variance, and standard deviation. And here we should be more careful. How do we use the notation? Because from this point onwards, the mathematical notation decides what are we going to do. The operation is on the population or it's on the sample, right? For example, the mean, until now we are using randomly, I mean not randomly, like interchangeably, the mu and the x bar. But from this instance, we're going to use mu for the population and x bar for the sample mean. So when you see mean, when you see this mu, so what you're going to say is, you know exact mean of the whole population. So if I say what is the, let's say, height of your classroom, all the students, if you want to take a mean of the heights of all your classmates, maybe I can say like 1.7. So if I say 1.7, it will be the mu. But if I randomly select some 3 or 4 people and I select their weight and I measure their weight, and it's going to be x bar. X bar may be like 1.8, 1.6, depends. It's not going to be equal to the mu, right? There is a possibility equal to mu, but it's very less, very slim chances. So from this instance, from today onwards, we'll use mu for the population mean, x bar for the sample. And what is mu cap? The mu cap is estimation. So when you estimate population, we use this symbol, cap. In mathematics, we generally use this cap when you are estimating any of the results which you don't know. So you don't know what is mu, but you did some kind of estimation. So you want to say the mu is that value. Okay, so you want to say it, then you put a cap because you don't know exact mean. So you put mu cap is equals to some number. Okay, the similarly goes to the variance. The variance sigma for the whole population. But for the sample, we take S. For the standard deviation, we say sigma. And for the sample, we take S. Sorry, for the sigma, for the variance, it is sigma squared. And for the sample, we say S squared. And the population portion, we say P, lowercase p for the population. We use uppercase P for the sample. I don't know why it's not showing properly. Okay. Here it's not an estimate, it is the complete P. And here, I'm not sure why this line is only half of this. It should be the complete line, right? So make sure when you write, the line is all the X, like how it shows here, X bar. Let me see if I can make it. Yeah. So we write X bar. So using this information, let's try to find mean, variance, standard deviation, population portion. Okay, we have to still understand what is population portion, right? Okay, what is population portion? It's very simple concept. What we says is what portion of the population is with the condition you are giving. For example, if I say how many athletes are playing, so we said 40%, 20%, 30%. That is the portion, population portion we're talking about. So that's something very interesting because most of the times we conduct polls, we take samples, we go like binary. We want to say yes or no. For example, if in the previous example I was given, we want to know that if that equipment is capable of withstanding 500 volts, yes or no. In the same way, you want to know if a candidate is winning or losing. Or in this case, I wanted to see the majority of the people are athletes or not. So those are my questions. Those questions are answered through population portion. Okay, in this case, let us see the example. In this example, we got the sample one, we got. So let me calculate through mathematically so that I don't have to do every time. So let us say it's equals to count. So I'm interested in athletes, right? We spell ATHLET, athletics. So I want to see count if this range criteria athletes. There are no one. It's a 0 now. Let me see if it is okay. The formula is working. It was 0. Okay, let me copy this to all the pages. Okay. So we see here, let us say we have only one sample. So the answer is 4. So, but we know it is divided. Okay, I have done this already. Times 100. So it is 10%. I want to make sure it looks good. Okay, it's 30%. Here it is 20%. It is 30%. It is 0%. So if we ask you, just by seeing this sample, you're going to say it is 20. From this 40, from this 10, from this sample, you say 0%, right? Okay, so how do we calculate population portion is, we just say this is the 20%, we got P. And what is the estimation? So this one is the capital P. The capital P is, if you see here, what is capital P? It is for the sample. And for the estimate, if let us say if you have only one sample, and the estimate will also become, sorry, I lost internet for a while. Are you still with me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I got a message. Let me see. Yes, okay, very nice. See, okay, let us see this example again. Athletes are 10%. So this is what you call this population portion P. This is the sample result. Let us say sample result is P, and the estimate is P hat. The P hat is, this one is same as this one, and here in this case it is the same. So we have only one sample, so your estimate is there are 10% people who are athletes, who are into athletics. But now I want to see, or I can say I have more samples. Let us say I have more samples now. Sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, sample 4. I have 4 samples. So my estimate can get little better because we just don't have one, we have more samples, right? So how can I do it? Is I'll remove this and I'm gonna copy this formula so that I know sample for each. So here it is this one, here it is this one, here it is this one. So this is sample result is P, which is 30 here, which is 20 here, which is 30 here. But the P hat, I have 4 samples to select. It's not just one. So what I can do is I can take an average of all 4. So how can I take average? So in Excel we know how to take average. Average this 4, this one, comma, the sample 2, this one, comma, this one, comma, this one. 4, I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the total is 15. So let me see if I refresh, it is changing. So we have an estimate of 50. Now it is how much it is? Now it is 10. But we know the correct answer may be different from this, but we have an estimate. So that's how we do the estimation, right? Okay. If you want to know what's the exact population portion, we say population portion. We can say the exact portion, exact, or we can say the correct portion. Or P lowercase p is equals to, let us say, count if the range is this one, comma, the criteria is they should be into athletics. This is the number, and we know the total number is 11083. The correct answer is 19%. So if you see our estimate right now, it is 20, which is very close. which is very close but not exactly equal, right? But anyway, we know how to calculate it. So what we are doing is we are estimating it. We have a good estimate, but it's not the correct. So the estimate is always changing. Okay. So that's the population portion. So how do we select the mean, variance, and standard deviation? We'll see this through some examples. Here, there is no much information about taking means and averages. So let's collect some other data. So let me close it. So sample 1, sample 2. Let me close this. So for example, result is only for one sample estimation analyzing several samples and correct for the whole population. I didn't understand, Tanya. Please explain again. If you want, you can. Yeah, please.
Because you did when you were looking for the sample result, you checked only one sample, and for the estimation, you did the average of all samples, and for getting the correct portion of population, you got you checked the whole population. That's why I'm saying
Yes.
so.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So we can consider that way for everything we have to calculate.
Yes. Here I'm having. I mean, in the previous example, we had 4 samples, right? So when I want to do estimate, I will consider all the samples. For example, like when you have sample, for each individual sample, you have some value. But when you want to estimate, we take into account all the samples we have. For example, we had 4 samples. So this information we get from all the 4 samples, right? And the actual value is something which is unknown in general. But in our case, we know that, so we calculated it was like 18.6. In the population estimate, we took the average of the 4 samples, and individual sample is the P, the capital P. That's what we did. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay, very nice. Anyway, we will do another example as well. So let us do another example. Let us go with this rating. So here this rating, right? Let us say this is ratings of Squid Games. We go again, ratings. And for our sake, let us say, for our convenience, let us say this is the whole population. In the real world, this is not the population. This itself is a sample. Anyway, this is the whole world for us. So this is the whole population for us. And these are the ratings given. So let us take 4 samples. Sample 1. Okay, I'm not taking sample 1 here. Let's say samples. Let's say samples. Let's say sample 1. Sample 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me take 10 samples. So how do I take samples? We cite, we generate random numbers between the first number is 1 and the last number is 1185. So let us say random between 1 and 11. If we have this random number, so we know how to do that is using index, right? So let us say index, we select this row. Let us say it should not be moved. Number which you want to select is this. It's a random number. So let us say each sample is of size 10. And how many samples you're taking? 10 samples. So we have sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, sample 4 until sample 10. Okay. Any questions until here? So these are all the samples. These are the each sample element for each sample, right? So let us calculate certain things. For example, let us say mean. Mean for individual sample is x bar. Let's see here. Mean for individual sample is x bar. So what is x bar? X bar is let us say, let's copy this, right? This is the mean. Now what goes? Let's calculate the variance. Variance is S. S. S bar squared. Why I say S bar? Oh, it's actually S squared, right? We don't have to put a bar. Is S squared. S squared. What is variance? Okay, this is the variance. Now let us go with the standard deviation. Standard deviation is S. And how do we do standard deviation of the? So let's copy this, and we have the standard deviation. And now for the population portion, let us make some binary condition, yes or no kind of question. So the question can be like, what percent of the people who has given a good rating? A good rating, let us say a good rating. The good rating is defined like say 7 or above 7. Let us say a good rating is 7 or above 7. That's a good rating. Let's say this okay, 7 or above. So what percentage of population, or in this case each sample, got 7 or above, right? So let us say I'm going to say above 6, because I know above 6 is 7 and above, right? So there are 6 people. Let me count if it is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So I'll copy this until the last. What I want in percentage. So divided by the total, I know it is 10. And it is a percentage in the Q. Okay. So here I got this information. I got mean of each sample, variance of each sample, standard deviation of each sample, and I got a good rating portion. The proportion of the people who has given the good rating. Okay. So I calculated this part for each sample. Now I want to know the population estimate. So you want to estimate what's going to happen to the real population. So that comes here. Mean. Now after sample 10, I'm going to leave a gap and I'm going to say estimate. estimate is, maybe I have to write another place because it will be confusing maybe. So let me write estimate of mean. So how do we use the symbol? The symbol we use is mu cap. Let me see if it's allowed to insert equation. Not allowed. Okay. It is mu cap. And then we want to know estimate of variance. Variance is sigma cap squared. Sigma cap squared. And estimation of standard deviation is sigma cap. And then we have the good rating portion, estimate of good rating portion, and we say P. How do we do this? It is very simple. We have to take an average. Average of, it's an estimate. I don't understand why this is less. No, I have to do average, right? I did something else. I'm sorry. Average of this. I'm sorry, I did something else. This is the average. So here I'm taking average. Okay. So 7.7 is the estimate of the mean. In the same way, I can take all other. I'll just copy, but the last one is in percentage. Okay. So what we understand from this is we have a best estimate that the rating is 7.7 and a variance is 4.16, and we have a standard deviation of 2, and we have approximately, or we can say all these are approximate, so I don't have to say approximate. So our estimate is 69% of the people think it is a good video, right? Okay, now let us see the real ones. So the real ones, the mean, say mu, so let us see what is it, the mean. So let's go here and say the mean. The mean is here. This is variance here. I forgot to put the standard deviation. Standard deviation is sigma. Here the variance is actually sigma squared. And here it is, what is that? Standard deviation. Then we have population portion. It's something a little tricky. We have to use this formula again. It's divided by the 10. I can't divide it by 10. It should be the total population, right? The total population is how much? 1185. Am I right? 85. Yeah, it's 1185. So 1185. And we should represent in percentage. So this is the correct values. Mu, sigma squared, standard deviation, sigma, and the population portion 72. What we are doing is, what we obtained is the sample, the estimation. This is for each sample, and this is the expected value, or we can say the estimated value by, we just averaged all the available results to us, right? So in our table, if we see the first column, this first column is here. The second column is here. The third column is not just one value, it's several values because we have several samples. In this case, we have 10 samples, right? So we have 10 values like this. So for each, you have its own mean, its own variance, its own standard deviation, its own portion, population portion. All are estimate, right? Okay. So this is the point estimation. If you have any doubts, this is the right time to ask, because the next topic we are going to go is another one. So if you have any doubts, I'll take 1 minute, try to understand and explain. Tell me if you have any doubts.
Professor, I just have one question on the Excel formulas.
Yes.
Why did you use standard deviation and variance and all these formulas with P instead of S? Shouldn't the first one should be used as S, as we were talking about samples? I don't know if I
Yes.
don't understand the formulas.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah, we have to use S, right? Yeah.
So how do we know? Is it because we were using samples that we should be using S instead of P?
Yes, that's right. So when we are applying for the samples, we use S. When you apply for the whole population, we use P.
And in estimations, are we talking about S or P?
In the estimation, if you see, it's actually S, but what we are going to do is average of all the samples. So it's S anyway.
Okay, and just in
Because
the last one is P.
we are actually doing here is then average. We are not actually, we are not
Oh, yeah.
performing any other.
Yeah,
So
sorry. And in the real ones, as we were talking about population, that is P, right?
yeah, here it should be P. Let me see if I did. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
good, thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Professor.
Yes, please. tell me.
Could you share with us this Excel file?
Okay. The previous one I didn't save, so maybe I will save this one.
No, this one. This one is better.
Okay, sure. I'll save this.
I agree with that.
Okay, let me save this. Ratings. Yeah, I'll share this one with you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, let's go for the big thing today, and it is central limit theorem. Again, as I said, we are not going into the mathematical parts. We'll just try to use it. So if you have any doubt how it works, you can go into the mathematical part. It's a little complicated, but you can understand. If you don't understand, you can come to me if you're really interested, right? But it will be like you'll be a mathematician if you're interested. Not into business, maybe you should be trying mathematics. Anyway, so let us go into the central limit theorem. The theorem says, if you take several samples, for example, if you have, in this case, we have taken 10 samples, right? If you take several samples and you want to estimate the mean. So for example, that's what we are doing here. We have the actual mean, for example, let's say we don't know this. We don't know. Let me copy this. Okay. So we have 10 samples. So we have several samples. Let us say we have n number of samples. So you have a lot of samples. And then you want to estimate the mean. Let us say you don't know what is the mean. You want to estimate it. Let us say you don't do this way. So you have this. The question is how this information of the mean will help me to understand the real mean. We know the real mean is something different from each of these. So for the central limit theorem helps us understand. The central limit theorem says if you take a large number of samples, let us say here we have 10, let us say like 1,000, million, 2 million samples. The mean we are getting for each sample is distributed in normal distribution. So what is normal distribution? We know how it looks. The normal distribution looks so let us. So the normal distribution is something is like this. Sorry, I didn't draw properly, but it's a symmetric one. So this is a normal distribution, right? So each sample, if we take and we see the distribution of these samples, this will be looking like a normal distribution. So that's a central limit theorem. It says the central limit theorem says when you take several samples and we put them together in a frequency chart, and the result is going to look like this, like a normal distribution when you have enough data. So every time you have more and more samples, it looks more like this, like a normal distribution. It gets more close to normal distribution. The actual distribution can be anything. For example, in the ratings, we already know it is not a normal distribution. It is kind of increasing all the times. We saw this in the previous examples. We'll see it again. But once you take a samples, this distribution is going to look like a normal distribution. Let us do this through various examples and let us understand. And it doesn't only apply to the mean, it is also applied to the variance and also to the standard deviation. In another sense, for example, if you say we have several means, for example, we have 10 means, and for calculating or for the estimate, so remember we did an estimate. What did we do? We just took average of all these means. But if you ask mathematically, how do you say that this average is going to be the mean? So one explication is it is because of the central limit theorem. The central limit theorem says it is in the normal distribution. When you have normal distribution, the average of the whole will become at the center and it will be the correct value. Okay, we will do this through example, right? So we understand. So let us take another sheet. So I will tell one example. I'll show an example. and then we will see if you have doubts. If you don't have doubts, we'll do another example, right? So let us create one random numbers. Let's create a lot of random numbers. Like let us create random numbers. I'm creating random numbers, but you can have any data, any kind of sets. I'm creating random numbers just to show it will work for all the data. So I'll create random numbers, random between any number. Randomly, I'll select any two numbers. Let us say I'll select 7, random between 7. Okay, let me use something like closing, like 0 to 10,000. Some number 0 to 10,000. And I will go a lot of samples. Let me take some, not samples, sorry, the population. What I'm doing is I'm generating a population, right? So let me select generate some population. I want to generate a big data. I can't use the word big data because big data is something else. I'm going to generate a lot of rows. Let's say 30,000 is our population. So 30,000 is the population. We want to just paste the value so that it won't change all the time. It can change, it's not a problem, but there's a lot of data. If it keeps changing, we'll be getting very slow, right? So let us say this is the population. And these numbers, let us denote these numbers can be some salary of the population, or let us say this salary of the population. So this is the salary obtained by members or any population. So I want to know what is the average of this salary, average salary, right? So what I can do is I'll take several samples. Sample 1. In this case, I'll take like 50 samples. Let me take 50 samples. So I've taken 50 samples. So how do I do sampling? We know how to do. We generate index erase this one and we fix it. And then we say random between, the first is first and the last one is 30,000, right? That's the whole population. $30,000. Let me see if it is 30,000. Very nice. Some sampling. So each sample is, let us say, 10. So I created this. I have 50 samples, and each sample is of 10. And for each sample, I can calculate the mean. But let's concentrate on the mean. The mean is how much it is. We say x bar. We use the formula average. Yes. So it's showing different number of decimals. So let me put some up to 3 decimal places so that it will be like, okay. So we have this mean. So what central limit theorem says? This mean are distributed in the normal distribution. What does it mean? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a frequency table, like the class intervals and frequency like that. We're going to make it. So how do we do? Class limit. Remember the frequency chart we used to make, like creating the bar charts. We're going to do the same. So lower limit, upper limit, the middle one, let us say x, and then we say the frequency, right? Okay. For this, I want to see what is the maximum and minimum of this value. The maximum of mean x bar. I'm just doing this for construction purpose. Okay, I got some question, I guess. Let me see. Yes, Ivan.
Sorry, Professor, I pressed the button, but it was not my intention.
Okay. So I'm getting the maximum, minimum. The minimum is the minimum. So we have maximum and minimum. So the lower limit starts from the minimum, upper limit goes to the maximum, and I want to divide, like, let us say, let me put that value, make 5, make divisions, 5 divisions, and for each division it's going to be the class width, right? Class width is going to be the difference. If you don't understand what I'm doing, it's not a problem. I'm trying to make it in a generic way, but if you don't understand, it's not a problem. By the end, you should understand. Then if you don't understand, we'll explain again, so don't worry. So the lower limit, we'll say it starts from the minimum minus 2 times the class width. So that's where we start. And the upper limit, let us say this one plus the class width. To lock the class. No. Okay. So this x is the middle one. So let us say it is equals to and the frequency is, we know the frequency, we count between these two, right? Let us say it's count if range is this one, count if it is greater than or equals to lower limit minus limit. Yeah, perfect. So I have to lock this and also this. So now we have the frequency distribution. Let us see how it looks. So we see this. This is what it is. Let me use another graph. I'll tell why I didn't like this graph. If I see this graph, it is going negative because it's kind of trying to make it a curvy thing. I don't like it because sometimes the curves will go, it will cross the limits. For example, it never goes negative. We know probability never goes negative, right? Or the frequency, it is never possible that you get negative. We get 0 or positive values. But here it shows negative, and it's something incorrect, mathematically not correct. So we don't like this. In this case, there are some cases which is more correct, but for this, no. So we better use this one. This is a better one. So we see. Okay. So my purpose of making all these charts, I mean all this calculation, is to show that it is kind of a bell curve. It increases and decreases. No matter what is the distribution, it always looks like this. You see, it's trying to get more like a normal distribution. Then central limit theorem says, when you have infinite samples, this distribution will look exactly same as the normal distribution. But here we have we don't have infinite sample, we have 50, but still we can see it's kind of looks kind of a bell shape. So I put it here so that it can look, I can keep changing certain things and see how it looks. I made it more general, right? So, so this is the example. If you have any doubts, please ask me right now. This is the right moment to understand if you have any doubts. So let me repeat what we did. We have salary of a population. This is the salary of some, so let's say some country with 30,000 people. And we've taken several samples. In this case, we have taken 50 samples. And each sample, we selected randomly 10 members and we put their salaries. And then what we did, we calculated their mean. And we tried to see how the mean is distributed, how the sample mean is distributed. We observe that it is distributed in this shape. And the central limit theorem guarantees us that when the samples are very large, like it says infinite, right? So when it goes to infinite, the shape is going to look like a bell shape. But with the 50 samples, we can get a very good approximation, right? Yeah, that's what we did. And the sample size here we have taken is 10. Sample size also we can reduce it. We don't have to take 10. It can be a less or more. So let us take a sample size of only 2 and see what happens. Let's remove all this. We have only sample size of 2. See, this is still valid. This curve is still valid. And what is the average value? The average value for a bell shape is at the middle. And here in this case, it is, we can't say this, but we can take from the average of this one, right? So how do we see the average? Or we can say the best estimate, or we can say estimate is salary estimate is the average. We can do average of all this, but what is the symbol we use? We use mu cap. Mu cap is average of all the averages is 5,793. So let's see, it is 5,100. So let us see what is the actual estimate, or I should say actual salary. Mean salary, right? It's not salary, it's mean salary, mean. Salary mean is mu. The mu is equals to or it's 5,000, exactly 5,000. It makes sense because we started taking values between 0 to 10,000. So it is generating some random numbers, and the average is, let us say, 50 of that, 50% of that, which is 5,000. And our estimate is 5,400. It's a good estimate, but it doesn't say anything about how accurate, right? So this, how accurate it is, we're going to see in the next class. In the next class, when we calculate something, we try to see, okay, so how much confidence do you have on your result? Let's say, for example, you just said your salary is, or not your salary, I mean the salary of the population is, you estimated it as 5,448. But how much confident you are? So then we go for the interval estimation. We say from this percentage to this percentage, or we can say this salary to this salary, we have confidence that 95% of the chances is there that the salary is in between these two numbers. So we're going to see this in the next class. So for today's class is only until here, the point estimate, we get the best estimate out of this information. So let me take more samples and see how it works. So it is 2, so we add more. So we have 10 samples each, 10 elements in each sample, and we have a better result, right? Okay. So any questions, students? Okay, if you don't have questions, let us continue the same with the variance. So we said the central limit theorem is also applicable for variance and standard deviation. You know, variance and standard deviation are kind of the same number. One is S or sigma, another is sigma squared. So we do for variance. So let us see variance. This is for mean. Now let us do the same for. So for the variance, what I have to do, instead of average, I take variance of the sample, right? Instead of average, I write variance. So the numbers are big, so it's showing like this. Let me make it. So I read this chart so that it will be automatically adapting to the sizes. So it adapted itself, and you can see it's kind of a bell shape again. So it looks like a bell shape, right? And this is our estimate. Here it is sigma squared. Sigma squared, or say sigma cap squared. The actual is sigma squared, which is, instead of this, we say variance of the population. See, the actual value is this one, but we have a very close value we found it. And we see it is kind of a bell shape. It's for the variance. And it is also applicable for the average. So average we have already done. So what is another one? Standard deviation. Standard deviation. Okay, here to change. It is not mean, it is variance, and it is squared. So let me remove this max. Here instead of variance, let us say it is standard deviation. Standard deviation. Here instead of variance, it will be standard deviation. Okay. So here I have to write salary, standard deviation. Sigma, no squared. Here it is sigma cap, no squared. Right? Any questions, students? Okay, got a message. Let me see. Let me save this. Let's work for this. Central limit there. Okay, no questions. Okay, so here another point I wanted to make is we see it's bell shape all the time. So that's very important for us to understand. But the real population is here. And the real population is not the belt shape. It is some other shape. So we know it starts in 0, lower limit, and upper limit is here. Let us say it's 0 to it's 500. So say x is middle of average of these two. Frequency is count if the range criteria is greater than or equals to this one and equals to this one minus greater than or equals to this one. If you see, this is a uniform distribution. Excel generates uniform distribution. So let me take the part. I can take this. It is uniform. It looks like up and down, but if you take the central value, I mean the 0. Let me see how to show this more. I want to see the 0. How to do that? Okay, here. Access properties, the minimum, let's go to the 0. Now we see it is uniform distribution, right? So it's all the frequencies kind of the same. But once you take samples and you mean them and you want to see, and it looks like a bell shape. The variance, standard deviation. So no matter what distribution is your population, once you start taking samples, the mean, the variance or standard deviation, we mostly concentrate on the mean. The mean is always a normal distribution. Okay. So this is all I wanted to say today. Let me see if we have, yeah. So we had an example. Thank you. This is all I wanted to explain you today. If you have any doubts, please tell me. Yes, Ivan.
Professor, one question about the homeworks. By the moment, I don't have my grade yet.
Yeah,
so
I didn't start the giving the grades. I most probably I'll start this weekend or the next week. I'll start grading your homeworks. Yeah, it's on my part. I just got delayed with that work. Yeah, I will do it.
okay, perfect. And I think that this this topic that we seen today in the class, we have already made some exercise about this in the last homework. Am I okay with this?
You already done some homework with this in your classwork, you said?
Yes, yes, that's what I am trying to say.
Let me see. So why did you start? Is it part of your homework? It's assignment 3.1. Are you talking about assignment 3.1?
No. I mean, in the other assignments, I think that we have made some exercise related to this topic. So I'm just trying to say that this topic we have already done some exercise in the homework.
Which topic in specifically? The point estimation?
No, the normal distribution.
Yeah, the normal distribution, you know it. But what we want to see in this class is the normal distribution is the properties, right? I mean, the central limit theorem. The central limit theorem says we are using normal distribution. I mean, the result is normal distribution, the result of the mean. So we are not actually learning the normal distribution. We are seeing that the distribution, the resultant distribution is the normal distribution. And I want to talk a little bit more in the normal distribution because it's very important. I know you did the homework and it is correct, but I still want to talk a little bit more in the future class, in the next class most probably, because that's something very important for us. So if someone didn't understand, if everyone is understanding, it's very good. But if someone is having a doubt, they can clarify on that day, right? So I want to spend like 10 minutes on normal distribution.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Very nice. Any other questions, students? Okay, thank you very much. If you don't have doubts, let's close today's session. So how do I start? Okay. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, we can conclude class for today. Have a nice weekend. See you. in the next class.
Thank you, Professor. See you.
See you. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.